And we are back with your favorite USL Championship podcast. I am back from MLS All-Star game. Uh, I'm sorry, guys, I had to change you guys. Between you and MLS All-Star game. I tried to do it from there, but the internet was not as good. So, man, feel bad about it. But yeah, oh my God, Edson is mad at me. What do I do now that he has this beautiful, amazing studio? How do I choose anything else besides you guys, right? But anyways, we're back. What an amazing weekend that we had for USL Championship for the Texas team, especially for our team in El Paso. We're going to talk, I think, a lot about that. I think we're going to talk a lot about Wilmer Cabrera again, and the position that he has put on the press conference this morning or today with in RGV, and also we cannot talk about San Antonio FC, best team in the USL Championship. It's basically almost impossible to get points out of that team. So I'll start with you, my friend Jonathan. How are things before we talk about the team? How are things down there in San Antonio?
Things are all right, I guess. I'm ready for Texas summer to be over. I've actually over the last couple months with it being so hot, I haven't been going on walks like I usually do. So starting to feel my pants getting a little tighter, but I'm getting out for a few more walks the last few days. Hopefully, we can remedy this going forward.
All right. So talking about Texas Heat in sports, I've been playing tennis every morning at 6:30 in the morning. Man, it's the only time I think that anybody can be outside doing any sports in this state. But we got, I think, a handful of 90s in the coming days, which we could even say that's good compared to the last several weeks, right? Or even a
Winter
couple
is
months.
here.
Almost like that. Almost like that.
It's
Going
time
down
to
to our
take out your
game.
jackets, folks.
Talking, let's give a warm good night to my friend Edson down there in McAllen. How are things at the Rio Grande Valley?
Joe, Jonathan, Roberto, most importantly, glad to be back for another episode, another week. Well, we've finally got some rain in these last couple of days. We've been extremely blessed to get some precipitation, and apparently there's a chance that we might get a tropical or subtropical storm in the next couple of days. So we're kind of waiting to get some more rain because we've really been in a drought so far. But everything else has been chill. It's been pretty cool, and I guess now it's time to talk in a little bit about all of our teams.
Yes, I was gonna make some more comments on the weather, but I don't think we're a weather channel, so I'll hold that back. Go all the way.
So fun fact: when I graduated out of high school, I went to Texas A&M to study meteorology. As you can see, it didn't work out, but everything happens for a reason.
Well, maybe yeah, I was gonna say that. Maybe you're better, talking soccer than you are talking weather. But anyways, going all the way out to the west, uh, the man that's covering the most unpredictable team in the state, I would say, right? We can always predict that San Antonio is going to win a game. We can always predict that RGV is going to lose their game, but we never know where El Paso is going to be. But again, we're going to talk soccer in a second. How are you, my friend Joe?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Since you guys have been doing your best Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel, I guess I'll chime in here. Things are good here in the borderland. Actually, it's kind of cool. You're not going to believe me, but it's for today and the rest of the week, it should be in the low 80s here in El Paso. And we're getting a ton of rain, which is kind of a scary thing because El Paso, the streets and the infrastructure, and more importantly, its drivers isn't really quite apt to drive in the rain. So it makes it for an interesting days. I find myself on days like this taking all the back roads to get to wherever it is that I need to go because I do not want to be on the main routes of transportation on days like this. But no, everything's good out here. Join another week. It's a pleasure to be back with you, Edson, Jonathan. Roberto, missed you last week as we discussed another awesome week of what was the USL Championship. And yeah, without a doubt, I think the Locomotive going up to Widener Field up in Colorado Springs to face the Switchbacks, a 4-4 draw that just was quite a bit of an exciting roller coaster talked a lot
Well,
about it.
let's talk about that game last. I think
So,
that one.
yeah, we talked a lot about it,
and
and good thing is, Coach John Hutchinson yesterday at media availability had a lot to say about everything that went down in
I'm
that game. So
curious.
I can't wait to
I'm
get to it.
curious. I'm
I can't wait.
curious to hear about that. I'm going to leave that game for last, just because I was talking to Jonathan before we started here. We could go on and talk for 2 hours about this game and how much fun we had in our Slack channel of the Striker on the back end, right? Oh, the things that we're talking about. But anyways, let's do this. First of all, a very unique weekend for RGV. You guys didn't lose it. RGV did not lose this weekend.
Actually, I heard that we also lost to by week.
I mean, if you don't spend it right, maybe you did kind of lose it. I don't know.
No, I was just trying.
Maybe not necessarily lose it, but maybe you just didn't take advantage of it. I mean, that could be a thing.
To be fair, they did. They took advantage of that. So, but yeah, bye week. It was sad. It didn't feel like a Saturday, to be honest.
Yeah. It's always hard when you get used to having those games on weekends, and then you have a bye week. It messes up our schedule overall. But let's talk about RGV before we talked about the other two. RGV did not play, but you had the chance to talk to the team and to the coach this week. Anything? I'm not going to ask anything good, but anything interest that came out of those conversations on media availability.
Yeah, so this afternoon, I went over to media availability before their afternoon training. Spoke with Ricky Reese, Gringo Torres, with Ollie Wright, and of course with Jonas Gelberg. But I think one of the more consistent themes that the players talked about was they mentioned that they felt that the results that RGV has collected so far does not necessarily reflect the performance on the field that RGV has. They mentioned we've been maintaining possession, we've been dominating possession for most, if not all of the games. We've created chances, but the goals just haven't seemed to come. And they reiterated, at the end of the day, the most important aspect in soccer, the most important goal, part of the redundancy, is scoring a goal, right? So they need to improve that. But they felt that once RGV scores a goal, they feel like the floodgates will open up in the rest of the games. They also mentioned, since RGV is going to be playing the South Texas Derby this Saturday, they felt that the fact that if they're going to go to Toyota Field to take on the best team in the USL Championship, the best defense in the USL Championship, they feel like it's the best time and motivates them to go out there, get a statement, make a statement, especially if they get a win, make it a statement to the rest of the USL that the Toros are going to be a force to be reckoned with, and that it'll give them motivation to get the necessary victories in the rest of the match and be able to rescue a playoff spot at the end of the regular season.
I gotta say, well, before I make my comment, just a reminder to everybody: RGV is sitting last, 13th on the Western Conference, 13th, 26 points in 23 games. Jonathan on our pre-show made a very, very good comment that if he was in the Eastern Conference, they would be sitting ninth with the same points. So a little bit unfair the conferences, but I have a very hard time with the first part of what you said about what the team was commenting, Edson, because everybody here knows my opinion. I rather, especially on the beginning of the season, play well and lose than play bad and win. I think for the long run, and we had this conversation many times, we talk a lot about this. Whoever listens to us every week has heard us having this discussion. But that argument is a very weak one when you're in the end of the season. The end of the season, you either are playing well or you're winning games. You can't be playing well and losing games. And if you are, shut up. Find another excuse or whatever. I don't know. I don't like that argument.
I agree 1,000% with what you just said. I mean, that's definitely the case. And before you jumped in, I was thinking about saying that sounds like something that is a valid argument, not to say excuse, maybe up to the first third of the season, not even at the halfway point. Yeah, no, definitely. I got to say, I agree with you 100%, Roberto.
Yeah, I saw Jonathan. Do you want to say anything, Jonathan?
Not really. I mean, I think you guys pretty much covered it. You have to, like Joe said, for the first maybe third of a season, you can say, okay, we're not getting results, but the signs are there that later on things are going to click. We're going to do well. But halfway mark, and now with 2/3 of the season gone, with a third to go, and RGV really needing to spark things to life if it's going to try and make a run for the playoffs. You can't rely on performances. It's got to be results based now. And maybe to give them some hope, maybe a month ago now, it was Monterey Bay and Orange County toward the bottom of the table. And they've gone on decent runs recently, and they're maybe back in contention.
We go back to that whole thing of win 3 games,
fair,
you go up, right? We always have that conversation about USL.
But to be fair, though, to add to what Jonathan just pointed out, touched on the fact that you have hope. You do have to recall, and adding kind of making a side argument or an offshoot argument or an offshoot point off of what Jonathan said, if they were in the East, where they would be on the table. The Toros only have that they've played 23 games, so that means they have 11 games still left in the season. They're only 7 points out of the playoff zone. So you still have mathematically you're more than alive to make something happen.
And the way I see it, the fact that mathematically it's still possible.
Very possible. Very possible. More than possible.
Like, you can't just go out and say, "Oh yeah, like we've given up. We're thinking about the long term." Because yes, I understand. I understand the argument that we're 2/3 of the season, and this isn't like their last on the table. But I think it's built a solid baseline. I mean, it's just little minute details and with finishing. As soon as they get on a roll and start finishing those opportunities, and they start getting results, then who's to say? If it was a team where they're a huge mess defensively, they're getting shut out 4-0, 3-0 all the time, then they're not a bad, they're not a good team. But
hearing that from you, Edson, gives me a little bit of hope that can be something good coming up, because there's nobody that's more critical or hard on this team than you are, right? You're very, very much critical, and if you see some hope, and if you see some I don't think truth is the right word, but I'm going to use it anyway, truth on what they said to you today and on how they see the game, hopefully they can turn around and make the playoffs. I know it's doable. We all know that you win 3 games in this league, you go up. But I am tired of saying this season about RGV. That's the only point. I think that there's a point where you become like, oh my God, again? Am I going to say this again? No.
Right. And I think off of that, Edson, and this is obviously you see each game in depth. Is there any indications that that's about to change? Because it's like Roberto says, we've been hearing the same song for 2/3 of the season, in the little things, in the small, slightest details that just the television camera doesn't cover or doesn't catch over a broadcast. Do you see that there's hope within that?
I'm going to be honest. With the current strikers that we've had that have played official matches, and I'm talking about Frank Gaviria and Adolfo Hernandez, I don't see that. I don't see them waking up. Frank Lopez obviously coming off of an injury, and even then, I feel like in this game against Sacramento, he only lasted 41 minutes, and then pulled a hammy again, right? So that's not a good sign. I want to wait, and I know it's very late in the season, but let's see how players like Jonas Jelberg and Ollie Wright, what they bring to the table. If they bring a different spark that'll kickstart this offense, then yes. But if we're going to keep relying on Gaviria and Hernandez, who have proven nothing so far, then that's where I can say, like, okay, then I don't see them making the playoffs, and I still don't see them making the playoffs, to be honest. But I feel like there's a good
you kind of want to
baseline.
believe. You want to believe. You want to believe that they can do it, right? If hope goes away, then it's over. And that's the part that I agree with you guys, that they have to say something positive. I agree with you, Edson. They have to say something positive, otherwise makes no sense. Anyways, let's move forward. I would say let's just make our San Antonio fan base a little bit upset and just fly by San Antonio on this one, because two games this past week, a 2-1 victory against London at home, 2-0 victory against Las Vegas Lights, also at home. Again, more of the same in the good side, right? A little bit, like we discussed before. Anything special or anything that we could be worried when San Antonio has win some games with a more elastic results, and this last two games, a little bit closer, or just games that they controlled? How did they go, Jonathan?
Yeah, so I'll take a bit of the heat off of you, because I was also going to kind of say, like, SAFC had the most boring week because they got two results that you would expect them to get. The actual details first of all, I think it's also important to say they were bouncing back from a 3-0 loss in San Diego,
Which was a hard, the one that hurts, right?
Yeah,
That one hurts.
yeah. I'm sure SAFC at least wouldn't have wanted to get blown out like that. But I think it's kind of funny for anyone who listens to the USL show. I was a little behind, but their episode from last week, they were saying, oh, well, if results go the right way over the next week, San Diego could pass SAFC up. And I guess that's assuming, if San Diego wins their matches and SAFC loses theirs. As it turned out, SAFC won its two matches. San Diego won one, lost one. So now the 7-point lead is restored, and SAFC still has a game in hand. So sitting fairly comfortably.
Just let me open just a parenthesis here, right? There's something on the USL headquarters that I really, really, really don't like, which is how they protect some clubs in this league, right? That happened.
Thank you.
Happened with New Mexico.
No.
That happened with New Mexico for a couple of years.
How dare you talk about the golden child of the league that way, Roberto?
And it seems now, because of whatever, and we know why, San Diego became their beautiful child, and everything is golden to that side.
This is not the USL headquarters, though. This is the USL show. It's just kind of a podcast that other.
I know, but I mean,
the point still stands. So the point still stands that Roberto's making, and I agree with it.
It reflects what the headquarters does. It's just what they do, and anybody that's going to talk, if you don't talk that way, you're outside of the normal, and it becomes hard. But anyways, I put it out there, and to be very fair, I made this complaint officially when I was with the board. I made that complaint to the league president. I told Jake, I said, Jake, this is not right. Just because somebody is bringing a ton of people to the stadium, you can't make that a perfect scenario just so you can sell more franchises to other markets.
Let's not forget last season, before the playoffs were going to happen, Devin Kerr, when he made that pre-playoffs USL show, when it was time to talk about the match between Phoenix and RGV, he spent all the time talking about Phoenix and saying how Phoenix pretty much had this in the bag, and if the only reason if Phoenix were to lose, it would be because of what Phoenix failed to do, but never talked about why, like, what RGV could do to bring to the table to get the win. And I called him out on it, and he just said, "Oh, it's because we didn't have time." I'm like, "BS! You had time to talk about both teams in other matches. Why couldn't you do the same for this match against RGV?" So when RGV eliminated Phoenix Rising, that just made it so much sweeter.
Yeah.
I think it's also
Well,
worth noting, and to like USL obviously is not nearly as big of a league as some of these, but a lot of leagues will focus on a few sort of marquee clubs. The Premier League, they're going to focus on the big six. In La Liga, they're going to focus on Real Madrid and Barcelona. Like, this is not unique to USL.
Yeah,
though.
but
no,
let's be
there's
honest.
different ways.
Is there
There's
really
different ways.
in the USL, outside of maybe Louisville City, is there really marquee clubs here?
No,
Louisville
No,
League,
and not only that, not
not
only that, because it's a lower league, and you have an emphasis or a responsibility on trying to grow the league organically as a whole, you need to distribute it a little bit more evenly.
And I agree, and that was my argument with the headquarters of USL and the communication departments at that time in 2019. So in 2019, when I made that complaint to the headquarters, I remember El Paso had an amazing year. It was really a very good year for El Paso before we got to the playoffs, right? And then New Mexico had that amazing year as a franchise, not in the field necessarily. It wasn't as good. At the end of the season, they come up with what an amazing season for New Mexico United and this and that. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm not even talking about the boat, what we did, because we did, I think, a great year, but and a much better than New Mexico did. I'm talking about El Paso, and it was almost like if the El Paso season didn't happen. And anyways, that was something that really upset me.
Getting back to the San Antonio thing, I have a question for Jonathan. I caught, I guess, the second half of the San Antonio Loudoun game. Loudoun came with it pretty good in the closing half. I was just, towards, in the final stretch of that game, I was wondering if Alan Marcino or the players, if they commented on that, acknowledged it, maybe were a little upset as far as them being able to close out the game. They accomplished the win, obviously. Technically, they were able to close it out, but I think they struggled significantly more than they ever imagined that they would.
Yeah, so, and I was kind of going to get back to that, is particularly with that Loudoun match, SAFC knew and admitted at the end of the match, we left a lot of chances begging. They should have, honestly, that match should have been done by halftime. SAFC should have been 3-4 goals up. And what do? They concede a goal right before halftime. Suddenly it's 1-1 when this match should have been over already. And then, like you saw, you watched the latter stages of that match, SAFC almost concedes an equalizer at the end to make it 2-2. And it's like, they should not have been in that position. And they knew it. And they knew, the finishing is still a problem, as it sometimes ends up being. I every once in a while, I'll ask Alan, are you, Alan Marcina, head coach, are you worried, your team's not able to finish? No, we've still got plenty of the season to go. We can do it. And then as the season goes on, I ask, are you worried about this? No, because when the time comes, they'll finish. It's like, okay, I hope they do, because, you're kind of putting it on them, and you're hoping that they'll be able to finish when the time comes. And last year SAFC found its finishing at the end of the season, and it worked out really well for them. But you kind of have to hope that they can do that this year. Vegas was a quieter match. It was a more routine win for SAFC, I'd say. Got multiple goals in the first half. That always helps when you go into halftime 2-0 up. And in that case, didn't have to deal with as much from Las Vegas. Strangely, I figured Vegas was going to be the more challenging team, was going to, find space behind SAFC, particularly with SAFC playing a very patchwork defense. Fabian Garcia suddenly injured, Mitchell Taylor suspended, and Carter Manley goes down half an hour in. So I think at one point, once that happened, all three center backs were different from what they usually were. But SAFC didn't really have much to do, to defend Vegas. So yeah, again, just kind of putting a bow on it. It was two wins that, the Loudoun one, SAFC should have made it easier, didn't, but still got out with the win. That's at the end of the day, that's kind of all you can ask for. And it's almost the ideal circumstance because you still get the 3 points, but there are definitely things to fix. It could have
Could have
gone
been
worse for
even
you.
better. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
And
cool.
just one of the other things, I was just going to say, one of the other things with these couple matches is SAFC, again, coming off that loss in San Diego, they were saying on Wednesday after the Loudoun match, we didn't feel like not only did we lose, but we didn't feel like we played with our team identity, with our principles. And so these last 2 matches, they talked about how they were working back up to that. And, it was, I asked one person, and I don't remember who exactly it was, but he said it was kind of a combination of that match just being a blip and having to work their way back up to fully exemplifying their team identity over those 2
Which
matches.
happens, right? It happens. If you kind of allow to let the team slip away once or twice in a season, right? I think the challenge is when that becomes a common thing. And again, they slipped. The couple of times that they slipped this year, they came back with 2 or 3 or 4 wins afterwards, right? So it's been a very strong team. We can't emphasize that enough at this point. All right, now we go to the exciting moment of the season. And it was very interesting. Our Slack channel, I totally lost time of time. I lost time of time to the start of the El Paso, Colorado game. I was doing something else, and then I got a message. We got a message from Jonathan in our Slack channel saying 2-0 in 3 minutes, in 6 minutes, I think it was, right? And then all of a sudden, before somebody even sends another message, it's already 3-0, right? They scored 3 in 9. And we start talking about the game, and we go to watch the game. Very interesting, of course, first half, when you go to the locker room losing 3-0, then all of a sudden, Magic El Paso comes up. And whatever Colorado did on the first half, they do it even better on the second half. And unfortunately, a last-minute goal puts this game on 4-4. And to not be mad at the soccer gods, I think that game deserved to be a 4-4. Although I was rooting for El Paso like I was rooting for my Fluminense in Brazil at that point. But Joe, what did the team say about it, or what do you want to say about this game? And then we can go around the room and share a little bit of the emotions of that night.
Look, not to defend my position or my halftime tweet, but I'll stand by it, and it's something I'll stand by. Obviously, you said it. Locomotive go down 3-0 first 9 minutes of the game. They kind of even things out and start performing and making it an even match. Despite losing 3-0, they don't make any adjustments. They don't abandon their starting formation. In the second half, they score four goals in 14 minutes, 2 goals by Dylan Maris, two goals by Lucho Solinak. 2 of those 4 assists were by Ricardo Ciacarrillas down the right flank. You saw a glimpse of what it is that John Hutchinson would like for the Locomotive to do all the time. You have to remember that this is a team that came in not scoring in their last 4 matches, and in the second half, in 14 minutes, they scored 4. So that was over and done with. I based off of the reaction, based off of the performance, I think that El Paso did deserve those 3 the 3 points that come with the victory, and I'll tell you why. Just because of the fact that Colorado, the Switchbacks, they didn't do what was necessary, what a prudent soccer team needs to do to lock this one up, especially when you go up 3-0 in the opening moments of the first half. And to give the Locomotives that ability to stick around and stay around, and for them to react to it, that says a lot about El Paso. With that being said, though, I tweeted out at halftime, game, set, match. And it's something that I asked specifically to John Hutchinson that I had not asked him when they got beat by Central Valley Fuego in the U.S. Open Cup, when they lost 4-1, or any of these times that when they lost to the Las Vegas Lights, that the Las Vegas Lights scored 5 goals on them. I hadn't asked them this question until yesterday, and I asked Coach Hutchinson. I go, look, a majority of soccer teams, regardless of the level that they participate in, a majority of soccer teams, traditional soccer ideology will dictate that you go down 3-0, you abandon the game plan, you modify to a low line and say, you know what, this party is over. This humiliation ends right now. And we're going to take this, that's it. It's over for this week and we'll look forward. El Paso didn't do that and it paid off for them this time. But I think, and I'll be the only one to say it, I think this time it worked out for them. I don't think any El Paso Locomotive fan, especially the way they were going off on social media, would have complained if this team would have packed it up, backed up, gone into defensive mode, and then that's it. And then John Hutchinson, of course, he's going to say, yeah, I don't have that mindset. I don't think that that's inside of me to do that. I mean, I expect that kind of reaction. But still, the argument I just gave, excuse me, I think it's still very valid.
But the cool thing about this game is also based on what you're saying, right? Is if you went to somebody and said you're down 3-0 9 minutes into the game, I'll give you a tie and game is over. Would you take it? Right? 99% of the people would take, right? Now you score 4 goals in 19, 20 minutes on the second half, and you tell somebody saying, hey, I'll give you now the tie again. Would you take it? Said, no way, I'm not going to take it because I scored 4. I'm going to score 5, 6, 7, and I'm going to take the 3 points here. So I even have a hard time saying, does this tie feels like a loss or feels like a win or feel just like a tie? With all the roller coaster that this game was, right? I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
I think, you know what, but the biggest part about this that we haven't even touched on was that final sequence to for Colorado, get the equalizer on a direct kick. Andre Galuz was completely knocked out. The referee, and it was evident, he should have stopped the play right then and there. Obviously, he, for whatever reasons, didn't go about it and let the play go. And like John Hutchinson said, and I do agree with this, I know it's to play to the whistle, but you also have to there's a lot of common sense involved in that. If you see someone that is just lying there motionless because they are knocked out, your human instincts are going to kind of take over and kind of just pause because it's very evident that the game needs to be stopped. Colorado takes advantage of it. They get the tie based off of it. John Hutchinson spent a lot of time talking about that sequence, and he was still very hot yesterday morning when he was talking about it. So in that sense, that's why I think, I think this feels even more like a loss because of the way the tie came about for the home team, which in this case was Colorado Springs.
And you know what? It's not the first time that Colorado Springs has gotten into a similar situation where they had a good lead and they lost it, or in this case, they almost lost it. RGV, they were winning Switchbacks were winning 3-0. Then all of a sudden, like in the last couple of minutes, RGV, even with I think they were a man down. And they were close to, or they weren't a man down, but they were close to equalizing at the death. So it seems like maybe Colorado Springs is one of those teams where they can't have a good lead because then they rest on the laurels and then they lose control of the match.
And if you go back to the highlights, after Dylan Maris puts away that banger from like 30 yards out for the first goal, the body language of Colorado Springs said a lot. So that's a very good point, Edson. Yes. Definitely they knew, immediately that one goal, even though they were still up 3-1 at the time, that told a lot about where they are in their own headspace as far as holding rather advantageous leads.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyways, I think we already late into our podcast, but amazing game. Even it's one of those games that it's worth going back to watch. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch that game. There's so much. I think there's so much emotions around that. Of course, you lose a little bit knowing what happened already, but it's still a good game to watch and see the oscillations of a soccer game. But not putting as an excuse because I don't like it either. I think it shouldn't be this way. But overall USL referees are also a problem, right? We have that problem
Yes.
every game or every week we have problems with the USL referees. So it's something that it is even hard for us to use an excuse because one week it's against you and the next week is for you, right? But at the end total, it's bad for the game, right? It's bad for
You
the game.
know, one thing I didn't know. I mean, and I'm as most. I've said it before. I'm the most casual MLS viewer that there is. I didn't know pro referees worked MLS games. I noticed that for the very first time when they did a close up of the ref this Sunday night at the Seattle Sounders game. I was not
Yeah.
aware of that. I was under the impression MLS had its own group of referees.
I also don't like the referees on MLS. Just for the to make it clear here. But MLS does have the VAR, which minimizes the effects of a bad referee overall, right? And hopefully soon. No, actually, that should be a question for us to put it on for USL. Are they planning to use VAR soon or not? Again, I don't think they are, but I think we should go after that. But anyways, we got Texas South Derby this weekend. RGV going to San Antonio FC. We already talked a little bit, when we're talking about the other games, but Edson, in despite of the team saying that they can come out to San Antonio and bring back the 3 points, do you believe they can do it?
I honestly do not. I honestly do not because San Antonio defensively is just too good, and you have to remember that RGV tends to play a lot with the crosses, and when you've got pretty much towers as center backs in San Antonio, and the fact that our strikers really aren't that tall. It's very, very, very difficult, in my eyes, for them to pretty much shake off all of their woes from the last couple of games in just one match. Hopefully, like I said, the inclusion of Jonas Gelberg, who is going to be ready for this match, might bring something different, maybe through the middle. But I do find it extremely difficult for RGV to get a good result at Toyota Field.
Cool. Jonathan, um, you wrote a story, a week ago or so about the situation of the goalies in San Antonio, right? Beginning of the season, we were talking, oh my God, how great they have 3 goalies, amazing goalies, and looks like they get to the point where they have none. So
One.
is that situation
This
is
got
that
us into
situation
a
solved?
lot of trouble. Yeah, this got us into a lot of trouble a couple weeks ago. SFC does still have the one starting goalkeeper, and if we make the mistake of saying they have none again, I might get crucified. So,
Okay.
but yeah,
All
there
right,
is still
fair.
one. But
Well,
yeah, so
but still, they come from a situation where they had. We said this. Two of their goalies could be a starter in any other team in USL, maybe even in MLS. Right? We talked about that in the beginning of the season. So let me change a little bit now. The question then to you is an upset. If they comes an upset to RGV, would that be as hurtful as it was San Diego, or less hurtful than it was San Diego?
I mean, SAFC would find a way to spin it and say, well, we, if for example it's a draw, we still get a point. We take that, we move on, we learn from this. If SAFC does somehow manage to lose this game, um, I think it might be a little more demoralizing because losing away to a great team like San Diego, we can talk about the USL coddling them all we want, but they have proven over the course of this year that they are one of the better teams. But that makes sense. You can lose away to them, but to lose at home against RGV when you went down to the Valley twice already this year and got wins there, how would you not beat them here? I think instead of can RGV get 3 points like you asked Edson, I think the question might even be, can RGV get a point? Because
no, let's make it even better. Can RGV score a goal?
Derbies are weird. Sometimes you go against form, you find a way to do it, and I think there might even have been some times last year when it was like, okay, SAFC's doing all right, and RGV hasn't quite gotten going in this game, and then they find a goal at the end to equalize or something. Like you never know what can happen. I think some of it might come down to when SAFC gets its chances, is it able to bury them? The last couple matches, that's shown to be a bit of a problem. But like you've said, it's also going to be difficult with a great SAFC defense, with a misfiring RGV offense. Can it score, a single goal itself? But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if RGV comes in, is maybe a little more defensive. I don't know if it's this podcast or when you were on SA Soccer Roundtable the other day, but I know you were talking, I believe, about RGV being fairly solid defensively still. So I wonder if they might just come into San Antonio and say, you know what, come at us, break us down, try. Because that's worked for some teams over the last few months.
But this brings up a good quote from Wilmer Cabrera today. He said he's not going to change his play style depending on who he's facing off against. If RGV considers itself a possession-based team, a chance creation-based team, he's not going to change that. He said that today. I asked him.
I thought we were going to get by one episode without laughing or being critical of something he says. And darn it, Edson, you just had to say something. And I'm sorry. I don't know what Roberto's thinking, but it wouldn't be surprising if we weren't thinking the exact same thing. He said that. I'm going to interrupt you right now. Okay. I'm sorry, man. You're sitting in last place of the conference. You don't have that luxury. You might need to start thinking about some alternative options to get points at any cost. You don't have the luxury to say, and I'm sure Roberto, being Brazilian, would knows this philosophy very well, which, oh no, we play and we let the other team play and may the better team win. That's a luxury Brazil has always had. When you're sitting last in the table, you probably do not have that luxury. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to comment. I'm just going to say we're not laughing at you, my friend Edson. We're laughing with you on this one. All right. I'll just put it this way. Anyways, let's talk about the next game. Otherwise, we're going to be here for a couple of hours. Talking about San Diego, this good San Diego team. Again, I agree with you, Jonathan. We were making some critical comments about San Diego, but I don't think it's fair to say that much this year about San Diego because they are having a very good year on and off the field overall. So we got to take that, and they're flying to El Paso. They're sitting second, 49 points, 25 games. Game on Saturday night at 8:30. They are coming from a road loss to Birmingham, 1-0 game. How are you feeling about this game, Joe? Can we take the 3 points? I need to do a bet later on how many points the teams can make this weekend.
No, the only question, obviously, you already broke down what where the team is and stuff like that. Obviously, without a doubt, one of the best teams in the league so far this 2022 season. The only question I had for Hutchinson yesterday and the players that were made available to us with regards to this Saturday's match was the following. You look at the games that the Locomotive have played this regular season, and you look at the standing table right now in both conferences, the Locos have, aside from a victory against Colorado Springs at home earlier this season, any team that's in the top 5 in either conference, the Locomotives have not gotten a result against. I'm talking about Louisville City. I'm talking about Pittsburgh in the Eastern Conference, obviously San Antonio, San Diego, New Mexico United, and Sacramento. No wins against any of those teams. So it begs the question, what can you do this coming Saturday to turn this around? And I think, I got a consensus answer in which they all pretty much were in consensus that this is another opportunity. If we're going to make the playoffs, if we're going to be a contender or to be taken serious in the playoffs, a match like the one on Saturday is a match that El Paso needs to win. So they're going in with that mindset. Obviously El Paso only has 8 matches left in this regular season. They're going in with that mindset, and El Paso still has to play Colorado Springs one more time. They still have to play New Mexico United at New Mexico one more time. And there's a road trip to Tampa Bay to go play the Rowdies.
It's a tough one.
They have tough games against the better teams in the league. That part of the season or this upcoming challenge for the team, it starts on Saturday night here at Southwest University Park at 7:30 p.m. local time.
All right. Now we come to our moment of the night that we enjoyed the most. I gotta give the congratulations to Jonathan. Got the 7 points out of the last 3 games, which is we already know at this point with 25 weeks into the season how hard it is to get those points right. But you batted 7 points. We got 3 points on the San Antonio FC game, 1 point on the El Paso game, and 3 points on the San Antonio Las Vegas game. So that was the 7 points. So you got that one. I will start making my bets. This weekend is a little bit tougher one because we have a derby, and it's only 2 games. So it's going to be the combinations are a little bit more complex. But I'll start, and I'm going to say we're going to have 4 points. And if I'm saying that we're going to have 4 points, there's only one way that can happen. There is a winner in the derby, and El Paso takes a point, right? Otherwise, we couldn't get those 4 points. So that's my prediction here, 4 points. Jonathan, since you got right the last time, what do you think? What is your guess?
3 points, and if I have to guess the results, there's a winner in the derby, and there's going to be another winner in El Paso, but it's not El Paso.
All right, so 3 points for Jonathan. Edson.
I'm also going to say 3 points, but my combination is a draw on the derby and a draw for El Paso.
All right, interesting. I like that. Again, doesn't matter how we get there. This is just an extra comment. What's important is the points that we get. Joe, right. What is your bet?
4 points, draw in the Texas Derby, and El Paso wins.
Wouldn't that be 5?
That would be 5.
That would be 5. Yes.
No. Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I always mess this up whenever teams play each other. I can't add that high. That's why I need you guys here.
All right. So we got our bets. So anyways, remember, we can only do what we're doing here if you support us. So we appreciate you listening to this. If you're listening to this, you're supporting local soccer. Make sure that you follow us on social media, the Striker Soccer News. Make sure that you subscribe. It's a $5.99 per month or $49.99 a year. So if you make that a monthly expenditure, it's you spend more in a coffee in a day or with a beer when you go out on a Saturday night. So make sure to support us, support local soccer, support the Striker, support these guys. We can only do this when with you. So anyways, once again, thank you very much. See you next week. Support local soccer.